Aloha, Hawaii Prepper here. Today I'm going to be talking about really important things. So before we get started, I want you to know that I'm putting out a disclaimer here. I'm not a physician. If you do have any issues regarding your health, please do seek medical assistance by your own physician and doctor. What I am putting out here will be a lot of important information for all of us, and I feel that we each need to make our own choices and decisions for ourselves. So what I'm going to talk about here is several things, and it all has to do with what is going on now, as well as preparedness. So I'm going to start off with community alliance. Let's start building our communities and having that community that we live in alliance. I know it sounds easy, but there's probably challenges. But if we brainstorm, put our heads together, and work on it diligently, I'm sure anything and everything is possible. It's up to us individually as well as collectively to come together for a common cause. And this cause would be for the highest good of all and the wellness and well-being of us all, especially with the things that we are up against, that we are facing on a daily basis, and you all know. So building an alliance with your communities, connecting with your neighbors. If you have not connected with your neighbors, the ones on your street, do so. Try to do so. I'm sure not everyone gets along with their neighbors, but if it ever comes down to crunch time, where our entire neighborhoods will be affected by any type of disaster or emergency, I think, we'd really want to have that support. And what better people to support us and support one another would be our neighbors in our own neighborhood, in the event that any emergency responders cannot reach us. That's an important thing to think about, to know. We're gonna need to help ourselves, because if these emergency responders are tied up, they're gonna take a long time. They're not gonna specify when they're gonna be coming. And you're not going to be able to wait on certain particular emergencies. So you want to get into an alliance with your neighbors. Get to know them. Many of your neighbors may be doctors, maybe nurses, maybe firemen. They may be officers, police officers. These neighbors are assets in an emergency at any given moment, so get to know your neighbors and, talk to them, discuss things, and build that solid relationship of community alliance and community awareness with everything. No matter what, it doesn't hurt to do so. And I'm sure in our nation there are communities that do this, that know their neighbors, that have their numbers, watch over one another. That's how it is in my neighborhood. We all look out for one another. Now, if crunch time comes, we're going to need to step up a notch higher and do the things that we need to do to protect us, to keep us safe, and support one another. So I feel that community alliance, neighborhood alliance, is really vital and very important, with especially what we're coming up against. So get to know your neighbors. You know, chat with them however you can, and you know, mend those broken ties. You know, or do your best to do so, because your neighbors are going to be your ultimate support when it comes to crunch time. So that's one thing, you know, I wanted to discuss here. And this is really good for preppers and having a solid foundation of support throughout your neighborhood. And then you can build upon other neighborhoods as well and make it an entirely huge community alliance. It's something to work on. You know, it's not going to happen overnight. Not everyone will be on board, and that's understandable. But we need to start this. We need to start implementing these things for not just ourselves, but for one another as well. Bartering. I think we may perhaps start and begin to go into this bartering maybe quicker than expected. And you know, I know that there's a lot of people out there from different states that are already doing this, already in the bartering system for themselves among one another. But the rest of us need to hop on board and start implementing this, even though it may seem a little bit early, and maybe perhaps some people might not be used to it. But once we begin, once we start doing the bartering for ourselves, everything should basically fall into place when it comes to your neighbors, your neighborhoods, your communities, people that you know, your friends, your family members. Get into and begin and start implementing this bartering system if you have not done so by now. With the way things are going, and the shortages of a lot of things and disruptions that are occurring, I think it's high time to begin and start this already, so that we'll be better positioned to find items that are hard to find with people that we start connecting with, and that will have these items, and figuring out a connectivity system, bartering system amongst one another. And you'll just basically build and build upon that. So everyone has a lot of different things, and someone may have something that you don't have, and another person may need something that you do have. So you can do that barter exchange. That's really important as well, especially now. We need to start all of these things now. I feel that it's really, really important to begin it now. Okay, so the next thing, I wrote these things down because there's a lot to talk about. So the next thing I wanted to go into, I want you to think for yourself here. I want you to investigate things, to research things, go a little bit further into what I am presenting here. Nothing is written in stone. Everything is potentiality. So the next two topics that I was gonna speak about is really important to every single one of us. And so the first one is religious exemption. So there's religious exemption, which what the religious exemption is well, let me get into this on my tablet here. It's a lot of information here. So Okay, hold on a second. I think most of you know what religious and philosophical exemptions are. And there's 50, there's about 45 states that recognize religious exemptions from immunization requirements. Look into this, because this is very important for us, especially now during this time. So I will add links to all of this, to the religious exemptions, as well as the next one that I'm gonna talk about. So okay, let me read this a bit. So, all 50 states have legislation requiring specified vaccines for students, although exemptions vary from state to state. All school immunization laws grant exemptions to children for medical reasons. There are 44 states, but in this link it states 45. There are 44 states and Washington, D.C. that grant religious exemptions for people who have religious objections to immunizations. Currently, 15 states allow philosophical exemptions for children whose parents object to immunizations because of personal, moral, or other beliefs. Many states align their vaccine requirements with recommendations from the Centers for Disease Control and Preventions. So at this time, no state requires children to receive the C19 vax for school entry. So there are, I'm scrolling down here. So religious exemption indicates that there is a provision in the statute that allows parents to exempt their children from vaccination if it contradicts their sincere religious beliefs. Philosophical exemption indicates that the statutory language does not restrict the exemption to purely religious or spiritual beliefs. For example, Maine allows restrictions based on moral, philosophical, or other personal beliefs, and Minnesota allows objections based on conscientiously held beliefs of the parent or guardian. Missouri's philosophical exemption only applies to daycare centers. So there are 45 states here that recognize the religious exemptions, and 6 that do not recognize the religious exemptions. So you're going to have to look a little bit further if you're from those particular states, because you may have the philosophical exemption in your state that they do allow, but it shows that on this website, the state, the statutes, as well as the religious exemption and philosophical exemption, checking out yes or no, or yes and yes. So I'm gonna link up this site for you to look into, but there are several different sites that you can find a lot of information regarding the religious and philosophical exemptions. So look more further into this and gain more knowledge and awareness about the things that you can do, and power up. I'm gonna get you to become empowered. This is what it's all about. We need to empower one another, support one another, So the 6 states that do not recognize the religious exemption is California, Connecticut, Maine, Mississippi, New York, and West Virginia. Now, these states may have the philosophical, may not. California does not recognize the religious or the philosophical exemption. Connecticut does not recognize both of those exemptions as well. Let's see. Maine does not recognize both of the exemptions as well. Oh my gosh. Mississippi does not recognize both of those exemptions as well. New York does not recognize those exemptions as well. Wow. And neither does West Virginia. So all 6 of those states do not recognize any of these exemptions. Now, as I read a brief paragraph here on this site, you're probably thinking, okay, this sounds like it's just for children, but it really isn't just for children, because there was a nurse that wrote a letter, and this was a religious exemption letter. So that's what we're going to need to do, is to write a religious exemption letter. There's many samples out there online. You're going to have to look it up, look through it, and figure out how you're going to write these letters for yourself and or maybe your entire family. But the wordings will be totally different from everyone else's, and you basically don't want to copy word for word off of anyone's letters and sample letters. You're gonna put the content and the meat of the matter in these letters from you. But a nurse in 2017, that's when this article came out. In 2017, the nurse had written a very powerful letter of religious exemption, and she took that letter to her place of employment, and she gave that letter to them. It's very amazing, that letter. I read that letter and it's powerful. So you're going to need to know how to write that letter, how to word it a certain way, and that's why I tell you to look further into the religious exemptions for your state and go about it accordingly in writing this letter. If you're having issues and you can't seem to find any help and you feel helpless during this time with everything that's going on, and so know that there are ways that and laws and exemptions that protect us, rights that protect us. The main thing is to know these laws and empower yourself and begin to acquire knowledge here, so that it will help you as well as everyone else. But that letter is powerful. I will have to put a link down below for you to read as well, and you can go a little bit further, because there's a lot to say about the religious and philosophical exemptions, but I would like you to look into it more deeper, and read it and see if this is something that would apply to you, and something that you would want to take it a step further for yourself. And so I want you to decide on these things for yourself and not let me or anyone else influence you. All I'm doing here is bringing out the message for you. Planting seeds is what I say. So just take it a little bit further and look into it. And if you feel that you want to pursue it any longer, do so by all means, because this will only empower you even more. So now, and so the next thing I wanted to talk about that was really, really important has everything to do with our rights as well. Not just our constitutional rights, but get to know your Constitution, know the amendments, know your rights, because it's there for a reason. Our founding fathers did not create it for no reason at all. And I believe they knew exactly what we would become up against. And it's happening right now. So, you know, be well armed. Total well armament when it comes to knowledge about everything. Not just prepping, stocking up, and all of those things. You want to be knowledgeable in all different areas as well. Okay, the next one, I'm not sure if anyone knows about this, but I'm sure quite a few of you do, would be the Nuremberg Code. So that's really important. That also has so much information there. You want to look into that. I will put a link down below so you can look further into it. And there's a lot of sites regarding the Nuremberg Code of 1947, and this is really, really this is, to me, this is a really powerful tool for all of us to utilize, to print out and keep on us at all times. So, Nuremberg Code of 47. What is the Nuremberg Code? Well, it's the right to avoid the imposition of human experimentation, and is fundamentally rooted in the Nuremberg Code of 1947. It has been ratified by the 1964 Declaration of Helsinki and further codified in the U.S. Code of Federal Regulations. In addition to the U.S. regarding itself as bound by these provisions, these principles were adopted by the FDA in its regulations requiring the informed consent of human subjects for medical research. It is unlawful to conduct medical research even in the case of an emergency unless steps are taken to secure informed consent of all participants. Article 6, Section 3. In no case should a collective community agreement or the consent of a community leader or other authority substitute for an individual's informed consent. Clearly, mandatory C-19 backs fail this test on multiple fronts. The fact is, all CVs are experimental and have not undergone the usual time frames, phase 1 through to phase 5. I think that's 5, IV, and independent testing protocols, and as a result have broken the Nuremberg Code of 1947. No novel CV has been proven to be independently studied and identified as 1, safe, and 2, effective, long-term, and with people already on polypharmacy, infirm OAPs, or with comorbidities. And 3, you cannot even sue the manufacturer, assuming you or your family member was injured due to the effects of the chemicals injected into your body. And now, here is a letter to public health officials, which was sent February of this year. Dear Dr. June Rain, CBE, I am sure you will be fully aware of the present biased media coverage pertaining to SARS-CoV-2 which has been clearly shown to be no more deadly than a normal flu virus. The research showing CV-19 has an infection fatality rate of 0.14%. According to the head of the Health Emergencies Program at the WHO, the survival rate, ages 0 to 19, 99.997%. Age 20 to 49, 99.98%. Age 50 to 69, 99.95%. Age 70 plus, 94.96%. I would like to remind you about the responsibility you have taken on as the Chief Executive, MHRA. You have used lies, deceit, and mimetic programmed propaganda about our NHS being overwhelmed and used as a focal emotional brainwashed leverage to allow docile citizens to acquiesce to fake science before being scared, then backed. I also believe your organization has chosen to show some conflicts of interest and has fast-tracked the approval of unscientifically, independently tested CB-vax, such as the Oxford AstraZeneca and, of course, the Pfizer vac. Wearing masks that don't work, standing 2 meters apart, and self-isolation, healthy individuals, none of which has ever before done successfully in controlling or containing a virus, whilst creating the illusion of a fatal virus. You create the cure. Vaccine. It is like something out of a Hollywood movie. Contagion. The fact is all, the CVs are experimental and have not undergone the usual time frames, phase 1 through 5, and independent testing protocols, and as a result have broken the Nuremberg Code of 1947. It has also been brought to my attention that around 900,000 was donated by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in 2017 to the MHRA. Can you please confirm this and or true amount of funds you received from them? So there's a lot more in this. I urge you to investigate further research for yourself, and find these things out. Educate yourself. Be well armed and educated, and having knowledge under your belt, having that empowerment of not being hoodwinked like a lot of people have been hoodwinked. Docile people, as it was stated in that letter, do diligently look into all matters when it comes to your wellness, your well-being, your own body. I'm continually investigating things on the daily and continually empowering my mind. this is going to be your most powerful tool and weapon that each and every one of us has. And it's time that we begin to use it, and it'll protect us and it'll help us get far and come together and empower us as a whole, as all of humanity. It'll power us all. And I see that it'll strengthen us in every which way. It'll strengthen our nation and all of us. But we do need to take that step. We do need to be the change that we'd like to see in this world, knowing that everything is going on around us, seeing all of that. So, how are you or us going to be that change? How are we going to resolve things and bring things to resolution? We have a lot of work to do, each and every one of us on this planet. It's not just storing food. It goes well beyond that. And so we need to support one another and build stronger relationships with one another, and break down the barriers and these walls of separation and deception and division, because we're the United States. We need to be united, not divided. We see how things are going on. We see how they are distracting us and making us divide amongst one another. We need to come together, use our heads, use our brains, brainstorm. We're powerful, whether you realize it or not. We have the power. There is more of us and less of them. So that's why we're seeing a lot of things accelerating right now. They're scared. They're really scared because they don't know what's going to occur. They don't know how we're going to band together. And that's a scary thought. We're just a few minute people that are in power right now. They have no idea what they will be up against when we do band together and come together as one mean, lean fighting machine. And so let's do this, folks. I know we can. I believe we can. We can. Don't say we can't. Don't limit yourself. Don't limit the mindset. It's time to reprogram that mindset, recondition it to what you want for yourself, for everything, for everyone. Be that change that you would like to see in this world, for yourself, for your family, and for others as well. Okay, hopefully they don't yank this down, but this post is basically an educational post. Nothing more, nothing less. It's all about educating. That's it. And I'm still being educated myself. Guys, have a great day. Aloha.